today I just want to go freestyle. I just want to just let it flow. So I find myself in this crazy, it feels crazy, it must be crazy, I'm sure it sounds crazy, position that I believe that I've come up with, I've discovered, it's fallen into my lap, a full set of a process, a path. It's an architecture, a methodology, processes, and workshops to facilitate our transformation from, I say, from fear to compassion, from where we are now in this, what I call this bizarro, upside down, crazy, synthetic world that we've acquiesced to, this false narrative of this world and our role in it as human beings, to compassion, to or the next stage of our evolution, which I believe we're already in the process of going through. And I believe that we have a spectrum in which we can make this transformation. And on one end, it's chaos and destruction, and the other one is ease, grace, and fun. So I'm confident we're making this transition, and because I see this spectrum, then it's become my life promise to do everything I can to contribute to our processing through this transition, this transformation, as far over to that ease, grace, fun part of the spectrum as possible. Putting that intention out there, I've come up with this architecture. I call it Contributive Energy Rocks. It has 4 basic arms. The first, I call ASF, Action Solid Foundation. And this is really the starting point, because what this calls us to do, so that we don't repeat the failures that we've had in the past of trying to right-size this world, we fail. It's so strange because I know I have this. I know I've got this. I've got this. Part of it is that I know it's the forest and the trees for most people. So I struggle on how to articulate it in a way that it makes sense. So my commitment, my promise right now, my life promise right now, these days, and it's evolved over time, is that I can articulate and share this architecture, this transformational architecture, so that it is clear and concise, so that it's understood and that it's acted upon. It realizes its agency, that it is embodied and manifested. If we do this one thing, then the rest falls easily into place. The rest is just fun, collaboration. And that one thing is the cornerstone of this methodology. I call it ASF, Action Solid Foundation. ASF basically looks at 3 things. It looks at getting clear as individuals on what is most important to us, to ask that question in our hearts and be in that question and see what bubbles up, right? And that may be fluid over time, but to take the responsibility to ask that question in our own hearts and see where it leads us. What matters most, what are our values, right? What's sacred to us. And the second part of ASF is looking at our life promise, which is a wonderful extension from what is most important to us, right? And a life promise it's different. It's much more powerful than a mission or a goal. A life promise basically says, I am, who I am, is a world where what I believe matters most is honored, respected, cherished, held sacred, protected, realized, manifested. So it takes the form of a life promise statement that says, who I am is a world blank. So our whole identity then is focused on the world that we want to see. Thank you, Mahatma Gandhi. Be the world you want to see. That's what we identify with. And that becomes our focused attention, energy, creative energy, co-creative energy. And there's another important aspect of that between creation and co-creation. So as human beings, what I've discovered is that we are in our most fulfilled expression in relationship with each other and everything. But we create this world together. Matter of fact, the life promise cannot be deciphered or developed alone. We need to collaborate with each other in mutually empowered partnering to develop our life promise. It lives in the interrelationships that we have with each other. It can't really live unless we help each other define it and get clear about it. The third part is what we call a life sentence. And this is Carl Jung's shadow. Debbie Ford called it the underlying commitment. My friend Seth Grossman calls it the life sentence. And I like this idea of the life sentence because it is a sentence. It's a prison sentence that we inflict on ourselves. So the life sentence is self-inflicted. And we embed in our unconscious mind some disempowering belief. And we form it there from some past experience of trauma, where in order to protect us, our ego stepped in and created this disempowering belief. And it hides in the recesses of our unconscious mind. And because we don't like that part of us, we repress and deny it. And then we build masks that we put on to project to the world the opposite of our life sentence, the opposite of what we're repressing and denying, those aspects of ourselves. And they become, if we're not practicing freeing ourselves from the life sentence, it is a life sentence it runs us. That becomes our life. And we project the world that we're afraid of. It becomes the very world that we create for ourselves. So those are the three components of ASF. And we do this process together. We do it in pairs, one-on-one. So we support each other in the development of these three things. The values, or what we hold sacred, what's most important to us, the life promise, and our life sentence. And we support each other in the process of defining them and then emboldening and embodying our life promise, manifesting our life promise, and in freeing ourselves from our life sentence. Can't do it alone. We need each other. That's who we are. So that's ASF. And really, even though there are three other elements of the architecture, if we do that one thing, especially freeing ourselves from our life sentence and crystallizing and embodying our life promise, then everything else is easy. It all flows downhill from there, which is our nature. You know, the lesson of the river is that it falls. It just simply falls. It's not doing anything but falling, finding the path of least resistance. And it's beautiful, and it's powerful, and it's falling. And it's absolutely beautiful. And that's the lesson that we can embody in our lives, that all we really need to do is get clear on our life promise, which builds out of what's important to us, and then just simply fall together in the co-creation of our world and the full embrace of every single moment of our experience, where we're living in the moment, open to infinite intelligence, as Napoleon Hill called it. Not living in the past and not being a slave imprisoned by our past, and not in fear in anticipation of what might go wrong in our future. We actually live in the moment and allow the co-creation, the creation, to flow and fall easily, naturally, and living in ease, grace, and fun. I think we're supposed to have fun. And in our crazy, bizarro world, if you're having fun, you're selfish. You're not supposed to have fun. Work's supposed to be hard. But you can really invest yourself vigorously in your life promise, expending significant effort that is fun. So that's the first arm of the architecture. It's the most critical one. It's really the single first step that's necessary so that we can actually follow through and realize the world that our hearts so vehemently, so intensely, so purely want to see. So here's the full architecture. You see, ASF is right at the center of the galaxy. It's the center of the whole process.